Why you were out recently was the shoulder replacement.
Good evening, everyone. I will open up the select board meeting for Tuesday, February 17th. The board initially met in executive session at 5:45 and we return to open session now at 6:30.
Recording in progress.
Can we start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I ask that you also remain standing? I'm not sure if everyone knows. Matthew Richard Pluta, a former gas inspector for many years for the town of Ware, passed away last week. So a moment of silence on his behalf, please.
Recording stopped.
Thank you very much. There are no announcements. I believe there's information on the bulky waste day on the Town of Ware website, Nicole?
Yes.
I thought I had seen that.
Yes.
I believe the date is April 18th.
Yes, Saturday, I think that's Earth Day.
I'm sorry?
I think that's Earth Day.
Oh, cool. All right.
And that's the hazmat.
And hazard material is also the same day.
All right.
The times are different, so please watch the flyers.
Okay. And also, we now have comments and concerns of citizen. Anyone?
I know Ann has something this time, maybe Ann doesn't, I'm not sure. I do. I would like to talk about transparency. I know that your relationship with Bay State, you're trying to get more transparency. And you had a meeting on the 10th. It would be great if, when you have those meetings, if you could summarize something, put something into writing. There's a lot of confusion concerning what is Bay State actually promising for when they open up a convenient care in the town of Ware. And I know sometimes people think this is an emotional thing with me, that I'm hearing things that I want to hear or something. But if you look at the Bay State proposal back in May, it says, when it's talking about the loss, the income loss, it's assuming 5 days per week. And when it's talking about the cost, it's not counting any equipment. Their own definition of convenient care means that there needs to be access to quick rapid testing, diagnosis, and x-rays. That's their own definition. So they have been giving contradictory mixed messages. So it would be great if we could get something in writing from exactly what you heard at this last meeting, that they say that they plan to have certain services, but they don't say when, because they've said different things like, this was July 1st, Michael Napick in the select board meeting. They were talking about demo delay, bringing back brick and mortar presence to the town, reestablishing a primary care presence. Didn't say anything about convenient care. If this is successful, there are all kinds of opportunities to enhance the services. Primary care presence will lead to other sorts of care. So they're talking primary care only on July 1st. And then there's different articles, we've all seen these different things, and there was another doozy where they're laying off more people that we just heard about. Republican article, this is just in December. More primary care doctors' offices that won't necessarily be open at odd hours like urgent care. They said that in December. So this isn't stuff that I'm hearing things that I want. This is black and white that we're seeing. We need black and white promises, commitments for Bay State. Another one was the January 6th, just around the corner. And again, they're talking about community care proposal. It's funny how sometimes it's called a community care, or convenient care, or primary care, a wellness center. You know, I'd really like to know what they're promising. So it goes on about 12 to 14 months, build a clinic, healthcare facility, no other proposals, blah, 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 blah. This was Ryan Barry, who was sitting right about here, client has not committed to specific hours of service. So these things are concerning. So I would like to see either a black and white written announcement from our town, who met with Bay State, saying exactly what Bay State said, what they're going to introduce when they open, because the trust fund, the courts are expecting a convenient care. Their definition of convenient care on the Bay State website says, you're seen by experienced providers, our state-of-the-art facilities have imaging, x-ray, and lab services close by. So I looked at all these different convenient care centers. 2 of them have lab services within the building that's shared by other healthcare providers. 2 of them have no x-rays or rapid testing. So what do we expect? And I know, John, you were saying how you're concerned about the elderly. Is this just going to be a primary care, or are they going to give us the lab testing, the x-rays? We need to have something in writing. So if we refer back to the original Bay State proposal, again, it said 5 days a week, and it doesn't talk anything about equipment. So,
I will do my best to get something.
I know it's hard. I know it's hard.
They are very non-committal.
Right.
They are working towards what they're going to do,
Yeah,
and,
I know. You're doing the best you can.
okay.
I understand it, but at least maybe then, when you have these meetings, meeting minutes or some kind of summary, something that can be announced to, you know, we're all, we want to know what's going on. We give up the $8 million because they say, it would be great if they did this. It would be great, but we see all this contradictory information, and it would be nice to have something in writing,
Okay,
okay?
thank you, Cindy.
Do you think then that your group can get something in writing by the next
I will try.
select board meeting?
I will try.
Because these are just your words anyway. What did you hear them actually say?
I will try.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else under comments and concerns?
Yeah, I'd like to, go ahead.
Ann House.
Oh, okay. Hi, Ann.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the time, Madam Chair. My business item would be, previously Cindy had, she brought to you a list of different things that she was suggesting for the board to consider. Some really good suggestions for making changes to the standard processes that you guys use for these meetings to better track stuff and bring resolution to some of the business items. You may recall the visual that she brought had decorative holiday balls at the bottom of the list representing the dropped balls in the process as it was. Some changes have occurred, and I'm just wondering, are there any more coming?
I can't answer. I know that the board has asked Stuart to be a little bit more dedicated in presenting information. He started giving us an Excel spreadsheet. He's not present right now, so. I don't know if you-
So there is a spreadsheet that's kept listing off these items. They're not just like, you know, vaporizing. They're actually going on a list and being addressed over time.
Yes. As action items, yes.
Super. My next question regarding that would be, that sounds like you might have just answered it for me. Who manages what is or isn't on the old business section of the agenda? That would be Stuart?
Stuart and I try to work together on that, yes.
Okay, so you guys work together on that. And how do things get added to that list? Is that, again, is that something that you as the chair kind of manage that with him? Or is that something that the board has to vote on things for them to be added to it?
No, I try. The chairman of any committee is generally, where we have a town manager in this instance, somebody who's day-to-day activities, I try to meet with him so that we can set the agenda, yes.
Okay, so you two work together on this, okay, that's helpful to me. I will continue my thought process regarding this stuff and go from there. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to add a little bit. As far as I'm concerned, you don't have to apologize for looking out to the best of your ability for getting something a good business practice. I'll put it that way. I know people are probably getting tired of me over the years now, saying, well, when I worked at Bay State, but when I worked at Bay State, we had spec books for projects that we were working on, and some were that thick. And I think I have some, and if I can find them down in the basement, Kathy will be happy because I'll be getting rid of that junk. They're incredibly detailed. And when I say detailed, up to when it calls for affixing something, sheetrock, to a wall, it tells you what size screws, how long they're going to be, the thread that they have, and so on and so forth. So I laugh, and when I look out there and I see for months and then for getting into years, the condition that the hospital, that Bay State Medical Center leaves their property, understand that, leaves to the weather, these
We have big problems, Stuart. Excuse me all.
no, that's okay.
Go ahead, Jack.
Okay, leaves to the Bay State Medical Center. Okay, I'll wait.
I think they're trying to get the lift.
No, apparently not.
Yeah, we have somebody who's trying to access the meeting, but they need the lift
Oh,
to
okay.
bring them up, and they're having trouble with the lift.
Wish I had just gotten repaired.
It's not the lift, he can't get, there's something about even getting inside or something, there's something else, equipment problem. I don't know, but physically, he's okay.
Okay,
Okay, all right, good.
all right.
Bay State knows exactly what they're doing. And that goes with saying enough or not saying too much. And it behooves us as members of the Board of Selectmen to dictate to Bay State what we're looking for, not to be at their whim and fancy of what they're going to give us. So, I hate to hear that we're, waiting to hear from them, and we hope that they're gonna do this or they're gonna do that. It's up to us to demand it. And if we say, well, we can just push them so far, at least the more we have written down as members as a record, and I totally agree with you. Okay, another thing that I used to do in talking to somebody on the phone is when they would make an agreement or they would make a statement to me, I would send them an email, and it would say something like, hey, George, thanks a lot for, taking the...
Me? Start with that.
No.
one.
Lucky we use Mr. Disney's car.
Is he out of his car?
He has to go where your car is to get to his car. Sorry.
So it would be something to the effect of, hey, George, or somebody, thanks a lot for having the discussion with me. As I understand it, and I don't want to make any mistakes, and then I'll repeat what, as opposed to waiting for them to send me something, which I know I'll never get in the manner in which, with the information that I want to have a copy of, I will put it in there. Please make any corrections as you see fit. Thanks a lot, appreciate that. And then I wait to hear from them in answer to, so that I do have the necessary information. contrary to saying, hey, listen, can you write up what we had talked about? No, I'll write it up. You just say, yes, it's good, make changes, whatever. But I just don't like the idea of how we just sort of stay under their control, if you want to call it that.
And I want to add to that.
Please.
We can dictate, because the court petition said convenient care. We know what their definition is of convenient care. Every convenient care location is open 7 days a week.
That's
It
not,
has to have, excuse me?
that's not accurate.
It is, I checked them all.
You've been to Hadley? Not open 7 days a week.
Hadley is not a Bay State convenient care, that's now a doctor's office.
You just, yes.
Well, there's only 4, you can count Long Meadow, 5, and they all are open 7 days a week. So I've done my homework, but I can send it all to you. Yeah.
You have 20 times already, right?
So anyway, the point is that on their website, it says what convenient care is. And it means also, I have it written right here, one of the bullets is, our state-of-the-art facilities have imaging, X-ray, and lab services. It says close by, and I'll say it again, and that's because a few of the locations, it's shared lab and X-ray with other providers. And then there's 2 locations that do not have on-site lab and X-rays. You have to go down the street. So if you've got a hurt foot or whatever, you have to get in your car, you got to drive down the street to where the lab services are. So because we're so far away, of course, they have to have the on-site here. You know, so the petition with the court said convenient care, and we know what their definition is of convenient care, and we should be holding them to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. To the word, to the letter.
And that would be wonderful if they could do it.
I know you responded to Cindy in an email as to what the conversation was with Bay State. When we met last week, I told her that I would try to get something more in writing from Bay State.
Okay, I think Dr. Trace also provided more detail than I did, so, and I don't disagree with Mr. Cassio. But the assumption that that's what's not coming, I think
I didn't get that part, I guess.
is very premature.
So,
And you weren't here, but I wanted to say in black and white, we see that their own Bay State proposal, when they estimate what the losses are, they're saying 5 days a week. And when they do the build-out, they're not listing any equipment. So these are things that are kind of contradicting when they say they're gonna put a convenient care. So that is where my concern comes from, is the black and white. On July 1st, Mike Knappich sat here and said, reestablishing a primary care presence. If this is successful, there are all kinds of opportunities to enhance the services. Primary care presence will lead to other sorts of care. So again, it's these black and white inconsistencies in what they're saying. So we need something black and white from them, or black and white from the people who are meeting with them that exactly says what they said. Thank you.
okay, moving on. Did you have any comments or anything? No? Okay. All right, then we have, under the consent agenda, we have open session minutes of January 6th and the 20th. We have the approval of Water and Sewer Commission minutes for October 21st, and a request for a one-day liquor permit for 2026-09, Ware River Jazz Spring Concert, March 1st, 2026, from 6 to 11 at Workshop 13. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Move that we,
Question on the application?
Let him do the motion.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
move that we approve the open session minutes of January 6, 2026, January 20th, 2026, Water and Sewer Commission minutes of October 21st, 2025, and the one-day liquor permit 2026-09 Weir River Jazz Spring Concert, March 1st, 2026, from 6 to 11:30 p.m. Workshop 13, 13 Church Street, Ware.
Do I have a second? Now discussion. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I just noticed in that application, there's a section in there that requires the certification from the police. There's nothing in that document.
Did you sign it after?
So our copy doesn't have his signature. Nicole is saying that he has said it's okay.
I have the original in my office, he signed it.
You do?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I
Answer
always
my
make sure
question.
to sign it before we get
All
it.
right.
Before we approve it, you always make sure.
Yep.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, the next item would be, we have nothing under appointments or resignations, although I want to remind people that there is a list on the town website for the various committees and boards that have openings. I encourage Ware residents to take a look and hopefully come forward. So under scheduled appearances, we are meeting with the Fire Chief, James Martinez, with regard to staffing updates and ambulance subscriptions. We have no paperwork unless he's bringing something. All right, come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, what would you like to tackle first? The ambulance subscriptions are probably pretty quick.
All right, as you and I had a quick discussion, because I had gotten a couple calls,
Yeah.
I stated to you that be prepared to come and bring some information with regard to what's been going on with ambulance subscriptions. I know it's something the board voted for many years ago to offer an ambulance subscription, which was yearly. And now that leads to your discussion as to why you want to see the board take action.
Okay, well, it is my recommendation that we discontinue the ambulance subscriptions as it is currently
Just a
set up.
Madam Chair, could somebody just provide an overview for folks who are watching and will view this?
Yep.
What is the ambulance subscription program? How does it work? And that kind of
That was gonna be
information.
my next comment.
All right, so the ambulance subscription, the way it basically works is that any resident of the town of Ware can apply for a subscription service to the ambulance at a $50 a year rate, which would allow us or forbid us from balance billing any additional cost to the ambulance other than what we get from insurance. Over the years, when it first came out, it was quite successful, but we were not experiencing quite as many people using the service multiple times over the course of the year. So it didn't impact us from a financial standpoint as much as it does today. I have numbers from the billing company with the offsets for 24 and 25. Was not able to get 23, but in calendar year 23, the ambulance receipts or the ambulance subscriptions brought in a total of $5,900 for 118 subscriptions. In
108, you said?
5,000, yeah, for 118 subscriptions, $5,900.
Yep.
In calendar year 24, we had a total of 98 subscriptions for $4,900 in total. However, our offsets from the billing company were $9,391.81, leaving us a net loss of $4,491.81. And for 25, we had 113 subscriptions for $5,650 total. The ambulance offsets from the billing company, $9,676.98, leaving us a net loss of $4,026.98. Now, while the numbers are not dramatic, I have had inquiries from one of our larger housing developments, i.e. Cedarbrook, wanting to have an ambulance subscription given to every single resident of Cedarbrook. We are already at Cedarbrook 1.8 times a day, 365 days a year, 657 total calls last year. Of that, 462 we were able to cover. 195 we did not, or we lost 35 transports and did 115 lift assist, which are non-revenue generating things for us. They still generate a cost to the town by going out, having to put wear and tear on the vehicles, having to sometimes bring people in at reduced or increased rates for time and a half or double time. just to cover the ambulance calls for the lift assist. That would negatively impact us to an astounding level.
So Chief, did I hear you say that last year, or in a 12-month period, there was over 600 ambulance calls to Cedarbrook?
Cedarbrook we had 657 total calls to Cedarbrook.
Total calls?
Total calls. Of that, we transported 462 times. We had 135 lift assists, which generated no transports. We had 30 refusals against medical advice and lost 35 transports to
Just to be
mutual aid.
clear, did you have somebody, you went to the hospital, you went to the facility, but didn't pick up anybody? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes,
Okay, but you actually went, you physically went there, but did not pick up.
Did not
a person.
transport.
Okay.
So, Chief, just, am I hearing your concern with the subscription is not for the residents who are using it, which we have history of, which is about, we generate about $5,000 of income against about $9,000 of expense, and we're running a net loss of about $4,000 for what the residents are doing. It seems that if we doubled the price of the subscription from $50 to $100, that we would cover that, and it's still a very reasonable approach for somebody who wants to protect their out-of-pocket expense. Would that be?
But even if you tripled it to 150, that's still less for someone to pay rather than what they would pay out of pocket for even.
Correct, and it does depend on what insurance they have. I mean, if we're talking Medicare, we're talking
Which is the
relatively
bulk
low,
of our community.
fairly low in reimbursement for it.
Right.
If we're talking private insurance, well, that copay could be, or that balance bill could be significantly higher. So we're talking that if you tripled it, you might start coming out on the front end of it for a little while, but it won't be long because, again, if it was only 1 or 2 times the course of a year that people were using it, we could handle that. But when we start getting 10, 15 utilizations from an individual or individuals,
But
it has a significant impact.
I mean, isn't that the purpose of the subscription, though? For those individuals who are elderly, I'm using that as an example,
Right.
who might have a dozen transports a year, that they make that investment to protect them, and is that not something we as a town can do to be supportive of them and allow them to remain in their home?
Yes.
And I agree with that. But we have to make sure that we are not in a negative position if we can avoid it. And like you said, if you're saying doubling it would probably cover it, you are correct. That's why I said, if the ambulance subscription remains as it is constituted today, it's
You're
not
gonna
a,
continually lose.
it's not a positive.
I don't want to see us making money, but I want to see us not incurring additional costs. To me, we should be at least breaking even. But more importantly, my question to you is, we have not looked at the rates that are being charged for many years, and I know I brought this up several months ago. We have not looked at whether or not the utilization rate is what it should be, because we know that insurance companies always pay commensurate with activities, so to speak, with the fees that are set. So if we're charging, say, 50 and they're paying 42, I guess I look at it, because I worked in the dental field, that you have to annually look at whether or not it's much more feasible for a minor increase to bring yourself up to that, and then the insurance company is going to pay a higher amount, which might be helpful too. But Medicare and Medex the fees are set, correct? So that wouldn't even
Well, New England Medical Billing, which is our billing company, has gone and negotiated rates on behalf of the town. So
for every insurance company?
For the private carriers.
When you say they've negotiated, but there's a limit as to what they can negotiate for Medex, Medicare,
Right,
and Mass Health.
the Medicare and Mass Health, those things are set.
Correct.
Those are set. But the private carriers, they have increased rates over the years. They haven't, that we do get a better reimbursement for some of those over the years.
They've negotiated, but we still haven't done a rate increase, I know, for at least 3 or 4 years. Am I right?
There's not been a rate increase in my time as chief, no.
Yeah,
So we're
Chief
remiss
Gagnon was the
not
last.
doing that, I'm sorry.
I think Chief Gagnon was the last time the board did that.
Yeah,
So that's been
I
at
mean, I
least 3
think
to 5
we've
years.
got a whole host of things that we need to tend to, so to speak. But I think that we really should consider increasing it, but not doing away with the ambulance subscription. It's a benefit, it's a service that we offer, but not to see the town losing money, so to speak. But I think we also need to look at the rates that have not been reviewed. I want to see for at least 3 years.
The other
Chief.
part, I'm sorry, Jack, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think the other part is we have to provide some guidance to the chief about Cedar Brook, and they are a for-profit operation that pays taxes to the town.
Yes.
So they are a taxpayer, but they have residents who pay them in turn for their services,
Correct.
and they utilize town services to supplement that, like the chief said, lift assists, where they're a resident of their community who's paying rent to them is down on the floor and needs assistance, they call 911,
Right.
and our crews go out of service to assist them, and I'm not disputing whether
Yeah.
that's needed or not.
Yeah.
It's a service we provide, but as the chief presented with the history of the amount of runs there, I think we need to give the chief some guidance that Cedar Brook, as a bulk purchaser of a subscription rate, is not in the best interest of the town, and we would have to decline that offer and say it's for the residential use. And if Cedar Brook wants to come in and have a conversation with us,
We can negotiate.
we can have if they want to do a pilot or something, I don't know what the term would be, but if they want to come in, because we've got the data that can show that far exceeds what it's designed to do for the normal Ware resident. I don't want to say they're not Ware residents, they are Ware residents.
But it's a different,
But it's a different demand on our service that we have data that illustrates that we can have a conversation with them about. Be glad to have the conversation, but I think it would put a lot of strain, as the chief pointed out, on the subscription rate against the other Ware residents we're trying to provide a benefit to.
Chief, are there other towns that are going through the same situation with subscriptions? And how do they handle it both? How much do they charge? Do you have any idea?
The only town that I'm aware that's in close proximity to us that has an ambulance subscription is the West Brookfield.
Yeah.
And that is, they are a private entity, not part of the town. Most communities that run an ambulance do not have such a service. At least I'm not aware of many that would.
my recollection of when this thing was first put into place in Stewart County, if I'm wrong, I think it was over 10 years ago that we did this.
Correct.
It was.
And the reason, in addition to assisting the residents in town, is we were looking at the town of Ludlow, and they were making a couple $100,000. That obviously didn't come to fruition here in our system, but it'd be interesting to see if Ludlow is still working
I
that
was just going to
system.
say, Ludlow was the only one, thank you for reminding me, I knew it was close by. I think Ludlow was the only one that a former chief had
I can
been
reach out
able
to
to find
GPs.
in Western Mass that did ambulance subscription, so,
I wasn't aware that Ludlow did it, so.
yeah.
They may have stopped.
Do
Or is this something else
Do
we
you
should?
want to, do you want to see us have him directed to get more information
Yeah.
before we make a decision? Because
Yeah.
I think that would be really beneficial. So, can I have a motion to that effect then?
I move we ask the chief to come back to us with a survey of other departments, if they use a subscription service, what the billing rates are, and then we can have a conversation about what fits for where.
Great. And then when you come back, if we could also have that data in writing, I was trying to scramble to write, so can I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So that was quick, but it still was unsettled.
Oh,
All right. The main reason we asked you to come was with regard to staffing updates.
Okay.
Naturally, we've all seen things are on Facebook, everywhere else about short staff, and I guess we wanted to be enlightened as to what is going on with the department.
Okay, well, Ware Fire Department, for the first time in its history, has had over 3,100 calls for requests for services. When I came here 26 years ago, we were under 1,000. Staffing levels at that time, we consisted of a career chief, a career captain, 3 full-time members on each shift, at least one of them being a paramedic. We had some 30 call firefighters and some 15 per diem EMTs, all on staff. Today, we have a career chief, a career deputy. We have a total of 18 firefighter positions full-time, 2 shifts of 5, 2 shifts of 4. We have 7 call firefighters and no per diem EMS staff. Haven't had per diem EMS staff since the closure of Mary Lane. And we are at 3,000 calls or requests for services this last calendar year. The shifts can drop and often do drop to a 2-person minimum. That is by contract with the local. The 2-man minimum is what we can drop to. Most shifts are at least 3-person with vacation time or sick time or personal time off. We can usually keep the shifts around 3. That is only covering 1 ambulance 24/7. Does not cover that second truck that needs to be covered at all times. Last year alone, we were short on shifts, either 1 or 2 positions down 159 days. We were at minimum staffing another 42 days during the course of the year, only 2 people on shift. In order to bring us to a level where we would have a minimum of 4 people by backfilling with overtime to that level, we would need to cover 3,870 hours of total overtime at an average cost of $62 an hour between basic level overtime rates and paramedic level overtime rates. So that's a dead split for a cost of the town of $239,940. In order to bring us to that staffing level that we need to be at of having 4 people on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's only if the local would step up and fill every single one of those shifts.
Do you have any specifics that for EMTs exclusively?
Excuse me, Mr. Desmond,
Do you have
I'm
people
not understand.
employed exclusively as EMTs?
No, we have no per diem, no standalone EMS staff at all. And of our current call firefighters, which are 7, I have 1 that's currently certified as an EMT.
Okay.
That's it.
Chief, the staffing was at 5 per group, so you had 20 funded positions on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
How would that support the minimum of 4?
Well, it would allow us the flexibility that we would not have to cover that first vacation shift, or that first sick call, or that first shift that's off of personal time. That would certainly help reduce some of the recall. Again, if it is the second person goes out, or God forbid a third person goes out for whatever reason, now we are to the situation where we're either staying at the 2-man minimum or we are backfilling on the overtime.
In Stuart, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
From my finance committee days, do I remember that the cost of a position on the fire department for an entry-level position, once we factor in benefits, was totaling about $130,000 impact on the budget annually?
120.
120,000? So every full-time position that gets added, you have your salary and benefits, but then you have insurance and other payments it totals about $120,000 impact on our budget.
Right, but what you're saying is currently because of the staffing we have, that it's costing more by not having the appropriate staff. I believe that's what I heard.
It could cost more, right?
It could cost more.
Yeah.
Okay.
In order to do a really deep dive into all of this and have someone who has the financial expertise to really evaluate this, it's going to take more than just me pulling numbers off our database. We need to have the billing company in here to tell us exactly what the revenue intake would be versus what the revenue loss is. And it's a very complex and it's a very drawn-out thing, and it's going to need a deep dive, and it's far beyond my individual capacity to do. I'm going to need help if we're going to truly get a handle on this.
There seems to be an enormous increase in the number of calls of the ambulance, yet the top population hasn't changed very much.
Correct.
I mean, this is a huge increase without a massive change in the population.
Can I interrupt before
yes.
you answer that?
Yes, thank you.
Has a major portion of it been because of the assisted living facility?
That has a certain bearing on it. We are talking another 600 calls that were never, 657 calls that were not routinely there because of Cedarbrook.
Okay.
We are also looking at the situation when we had Mary Lane here. Some people were more likely to drive to Mary Lane and be seen at Mary Lane than to call the ambulance to be transported down to Wing. That certainly has had an effect on it. You also have to factor in that we are a community that does not have a lot of municipal transport. We don't have taxi services here. We don't have a regular bus running schedule. So a lot of our folks, their only alternative, if they need emergent medical attention, is to call the ambulance. And as everyone in this room, we're all getting a little older, and therefore our needs change a little bit, and we might need that service a little more often. So you couple that with the lack of additional transportation modalities, you put the fact that the hospital's no longer here, you added assisted living, and I hesitate to wonder what a convenient care center might do as well on top of it, because one thing that has to be made perfectly clear with this, if that does come in, people that would normally have called their ambulance provider to take them to Wing, who don't want to go to Wing and want to be seen here and then can't be treated here, they now become Ware's 911 problem. They're not going to be transported by any other service but ours, because we're going, if it's in our town, it's our call. That has to be looked at in terms of what it would be on a staffing impact going forward.
Chief, is it fair to say that what we're feeling is really being felt regionally?
Oh, absolutely. We are not the only community.
Every fire department and EMS agency around us are struggling with these same challenges of increased call rates,
I'm sure it's that way in the city.
stable staffing, so we are reflective of what's happening around us. But to your observation about the convenient care chief, when you survey your fellow chiefs, it would be interesting to ask them how many calls are generated from their convenient cares. Because there are many communities that already have them.
Correct.
Yeah,
So they'll have some experience to be able, and that may be a talking
I
point
was surprised to hear
in
that.
future conversation with Bay State, is to be able to say that we're concerned about this, or we have data that indicates this might be an issue for us. Let's have a conversation.
You know, John, you asked why there seems to be so many more when the population hasn't changed. I'm just sitting here thinking, and with the baby boomer generation coming up into that age bracket, I believe that is the reason why, is because I guarantee it, when my generation comes into it, it's not going to be there, because my generation chooses not to have children, not to continue moving forward. I think it's the generation that's now needing the assistance and needing the help is where they are at that stage, and it's no fault to their own. It's just, you ask why, and as I'm sitting here thinking, well, why would there be such a difference between certain time periods? brings me to the conclusion of the generation that there was, is the baby boomers are coming into that time of a need where they need those type of services.
So we still have around 10,000 population, but the population is older than in years before.
That's the only thing I can
Yes.
think of. I mean,
Yes.
it's just, it is what it is. That's, because when you start to take everything, and I may know a thing or two about East Long Meadow, and we hear those ambulance calls go by all the time. It's not Ware, it's other communities, and when those same things that are happening, as Chief was saying, this is everywhere. This isn't the town of Ware, it's not the town of Belchtown, it's not East Long Meadow. It is literally everywhere, and the only thing for that is the generation that's coming into that particular bracket where they will need the assistance.
But I think also, if I can say, and you correct me if I'm wrong, people do not understand a lot about their own health. They will wait till the last minute and know that if they actually have to have a friend or a relative drive them and have to sit for 6 hours because they were a walk-in, they believe, because I've seen it and I've been told this, that they will be seen quicker and faster if they come in by ambulance, and that's not true.
No, that is a very old wives' tale.
Right, but I do know that that's exactly what's happening. There are many people that call the ambulance that could be taken by car or different transport.
And that has been something that I have been working on since the day I got here, to try to tell people that's not how it works. There's something called triage. The sicker get seen quicker. It doesn't make a difference whether they come in by ambulance. We put people in the waiting room. We've been sent and with the stretcher to put them in the waiting room because they're not the sickest person in the room. And it is unfortunate that people believe just because you go in by an ambulance means you're going to be seen immediately. That's not always the case. Now, if you are indeed very sick and you are in our ambulance, you will be seen as soon as possible.
Correct.
The hospitals they bend over backwards to make that happen.
Good.
2 points on bringing any kind of medical treatment into town, whether it's convenient care, urgent care, however it has the possibility of preventing an ambulance transport, because as some of the points the chief made, if care is close to people, when Mary Lane was available to provide care to people, they drove themselves there, they went there. Not having a facility in town to be able to see them on an emergent basis, however it's structured or whatnot, has the possibility of reducing some calls. I don't know that it would be major, but while it could generate calls, it also may help offset calls, because having access to treatment is the first step to reducing a transport. The second is, I had a conversation with the chief, and I asked the board to bring the chief in so we could have this conversation after the Pleasant Street fire. The night of the Pleasant Street fire, the department was down to the 2-person minimum, and they had a medical call. Those 2 firefighters did per protocol. They took the ambulance and responded. They discovered that fire on Pleasant Street while they're in the ambulance en route to a medical call. Now, I'm pretty sure they had to continue to the medical call.
Yes.
Because that's their primary obligation. They called Westcom Dispatch and reported a working structure fire. The Ware Fire Department responded, but there was nobody in the station at the time. And the department responded with its resources, along with automatically bringing in resources from neighboring towns, which is becoming much more common. We receive and we give that. But what it does, we focused a lot of our conversation tonight on EMS and ambulance. We still have a need to be aware what are our firefighting resources, and how is the department able, with the funding it has, to be able to meet those dual challenges, emergency medical services and firefighting. So I invited, the chief went over and showed me a lot of the run data and the numbers, and it's an increasing amount of calls where mutual aid is not only being asked to come into Ware, but where we're going out of town. The 3,100 calls he mentioned, we always appreciate the work of town staff, but those are our firefighters who are performing at that accelerated rate, and the back-to-back calls, and the impact that has on them to be able to work a shift and then go home to their family. So it's a
But
multifaceted
they're
problem.
not- But that's not happening because the situation is perpetuating. They're getting called back countless amount of times, so they're not even getting rest period that they're entitled to.
Right, and in the situation with the Pleasant Street fire, the ambulance crew had gone out. There had been a tone dropped to request people for station coverage. No one responded for the station coverage. It wasn't until the fire tones dropped that we actually started getting people coming in.
How often does that happen?
Whenever we get a reported working structure fire, I can guarantee 2 or 3, maybe even 4 firefighters coming back. For example, today, we are at the 2-man minimum today. We had a total of 5 ambulance calls before I left the office today. One of them was handled mutual aid by Warren because we got nobody coming in on the ambulance request. And the last call, only one person came in on recall for the station coverage. That is not atypical.
And to put it in perspective, that's overtime. And to Nancy's point, these are people who have gone home after working, and for them to disrupt their life, they can accept to come back, they can accept to take the overtime, and the contract recognizes that, and they're entitled to that, but we are depending on a system of relying our full-time staff to be available in their off-duty hours to come back to the needs of the town. Like Josh, you said tonight, you're on standby for the next, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
These people are on standby 24/7 when they're off.
But it's becoming continual.
Yeah.
It's not a rarity anymore.
No.
I know over the last few years, it has become much more continual, and I think it's unfair, so to speak.
Well, it's not uncommon in the fire service to rely on a certain amount of recall for the larger events. Unfortunately, we're in a position now where we are relying on recall to handle our nuts and bolts,
Right.
day-to-day bread and butter operations. That's where we have to focus what we're going to be looking at in terms of what staffing models we can look at, how we can address it, what we can afford, what we can do to better enhance the quality of for our citizens and taxpayers aware, and sustain it. And like I said, it's far beyond me as just a simple fire chief to come up with all of that. I would strongly recommend that we get into a true manpower study or a study to look at the needs assessments of the department, both at staffing and partner with the local.
Well, there are consulting firms that will do just that. They'll do an evaluation based on what data you give to them based on past, but more importantly, towards the future.
And be willing to look at less than traditional staffing models. I can tell you that our daily call volume, our peak call volumes are between 9:30 in the morning and 7:30 at night. That's when the majority of our calls occur. So target staffing was
And
not
what about on the weekend?
that is maintained throughout the weekends.
Okay.
How many of your ambulance calls are out of town?
Let's see, do I have that with me? Or did I think I gave it to you, Mr. Willett. I don't know if I have that particular number with me. Actually, in the annual report, I broke it down. So if you have a copy of the annual report, we could read it off that.
I don't have it.
No, Mr. Willett does have it. At least.
Yeah, I'm just looking for it.
Yeah.
One thing we like is paper.
Chief, while he's looking for that, quick question
Yes,
for
sir.
you, and I'm not sure, I think you mentioned this already. If you're in the ambulance, do you have to go, as a patient, Do you have to go where the drivers bring you, or do you have a choice?
Well, that brings me up to the last thing I was gonna bring up,
Oh, okay.
because, well, while we're looking, I had an email come to my email yesterday, and I got it today, and it's from a resident of the town of Ware, Ann Bigda. I don't know if anyone here knows her.
She's on
Oh,
screen.
Yep,
she was
she's right there.
Hi, there you are. So, since you were scheduled to speak at the select board meeting, I hope you might use this opportunity to publicly clarify an important issue for residents and likely make things more smooth and all involved in the ambulance emergency. What rights do a patient or their loved ones have to dictate where an ambulance takes them for care? I know multiple people have researched this, but there are conflicting variations of the answer. Discussing it here would help the folks understand the rules and be able to plan ahead and find themselves in this situation. Well, the quick answer to that is a patient by the ambulance regulations are required to be taken to the closest appropriate medical facility. Now, that being said, closest appropriate medical facility depends largely on the patient's presentation. For example, if someone is having a heart attack, Wing is not going to fix their heart attack. Bay State, because they have a cath lab, because they have cardiothoracic surgery, where true interventional care can be taken care of, that's the appropriate location for them. Labor and delivery, Wessons, or Cooley Dickinson. They have an L&D center. Someone who is trauma, again, a trauma facility, a level 1 or a level 2 trauma facility. Their presentation dictates the location of where they're going. Now, otherwise, they are to be taken to the closest appropriate facility, which is usually 9 times out of 10 the closest community hospital. There are some exceptions to that. In order for an ambulance crew to go beyond the closest facility, we need the approval of the medical control director or physician on duty at the receiving hospital who runs our medical control to allow us to bypass the closest facility to go to the next facility. And that is only if they are stable enough to make it there. Now, it makes quite a bit of sense when you are, say, a patient at Cooley Dickinson Hospital, and you're not a patient in the Bay State system. Your medical records, everything's at Cooley Dickinson. It would be nice to be able to take you there. But if you are more than 10 or 15 minutes down the road further than the closest facility, we need to get medical control's approval to allow that to happen. And it is the physician on duty, it's their discretion.
At which hospital? Yeah.
Our medical control facility is Wing.
Oh, okay.
That Bay State Healthcare, or Bay State Health Services, is our medical control. That's who we have our ambulance affiliation agreements through. So that is our medical control by default. So if there is a physician who's comfortable saying, based on the report from the paramedic, this person is very, very stable, they would like to go, the family would like them to go to this facility.
At Wing.
You're right.
The doctor at
Wing.
The physician.
Are you comfortable with allowing us to proceed further down the road? To wherever?
Yes.
And if that physician says yes, or if that physician says, I don't like what I'm hearing, bring them here, it's a done deal, we have to bring them there.
Okay. So there's good communication between the ambulance driver or personnel who are feeding the information to Wing.
Right, to the physician on duty.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Chief.
You're welcome.
Ken found his.
Oh, good.
So the figures the chief provided is for his 2025 annual report. He said, we provided 122 mutual aid EMS responses and 11 fire mutual aid responses for a total of 133 given. That's 133 times they went out of town. We received mutual aid for EMS 83 times and for fire 37 times for a total of 120 mutual aid responses. We gave 133, we received 120.
So it
That's
sounds, but every community is being faced with similar
Correct.
needs, which is a draw against every community,
Right.
so to speak.
When I first came on with the way that we were staffed and the way that we operated with a large call force, it was very rare for us to bring in on a first alarm assignment.
Things have changed.
For a first alarm assignment, any mutual. We were covering everything ourselves, including our ambulance. Today, we just can't do that.
I think the only recourse we have at this point is to actually bring in a consulting company or someone to help look at
Well,
what our
yes.
staffing needs are.
Yeah, we asked the chief to go and do the survey and bring back the data on billing and whatnot, but the second part, in preparation of the budget for the coming year, would be, can we afford to put some money aside to get a staffing and departmental study for the fire department?
I mean, you, through your chiefs association, you must have contacts as to other communities that have had similar stations.
Right,
similar
and
situations.
actually Concord put a very comprehensive study together, but it is, while it is on par with some of the things that we're looking at, we faced a few different challenges that they did not. So it's not quite apples to apples.
You're never gonna find apples
No.
to apples. Every community is unique in and of itself. However, I think we actually have to start somewhere
Mhm.
so that we can actually figure out how we can proceed, what the needs are, whether it's long-term or just a short-term with a plan for long-term. But it'll give us a better cost analysis, and then we'll have to figure out, can we in fact afford to continue to do what we do without sufficient resources and funding?
Correct. And I support that in every way, shape, and form. I am very sympathetic to the town's financial situation, being a taxpayer myself in town. Very sympathetic towards it. But I also understand that we really need to have probably the independent lens look at this. So there can be no misunderstanding from my standpoint that I want the data to speak for itself. I don't want to have to speak for the data. I don't think that's, I can imagine that there would be some skepticism with that because I have a vested interest.
Okay.
So,
I don't- Do we want to talk a little bit more about this? If not,
I think we
maybe
got
a
it.
motion.
Madam Chair, Ann has a.
Sorry, Ann. You keep switching. You were over on the other side. You didn't have your hand up. Go ahead. Dave, switched again.
Madam Chair, my question is actually to the chief, but I will direct it to you per protocol. I, as a Ware resident, if I'm needing an ambulance, will receive Bay State authority regarding my transport, no matter, that's how it goes. Just as a Ware resident, I'm understanding that Bay State is our medical control, and therefore they will dictate where I will go. Is that?
That's what I heard because of the affiliation and.
to a certain extent, you are correct.
Okay.
Again, we go to another community and the appropriate care facility is east of there. We may very well be going east as well. And that's basically on a mutual aid situation.
When
Ambulance,
you say going to another community, you mean as someone else who's a resident of other than Ware?
He said
correct.
mutual aid.
As mutual aid. Now, like I say, it's the ambulance regulations that overall dictate where someone goes, and it is by law the closest appropriate facility. And in our case, 99% of the time, that's going to be Wing Hospital. And in order to bypass Wing, we need medical controls approval to go beyond there and paint the picture for them that the patient is indeed stable enough to go 10 or 15 additional minutes down the road.
Okay.
So Chief, just,
Yes, sir.
and I'm trying to get an understanding of what you're looking for an answer, because as the chief said, if you're using the ambulance, hopefully it's for a medical emergency, hopefully.
Right.
And once you're in the back of the ambulance and the paramedics establish contact with medical control and give their report, it's in the best interest of the town, frankly, for that ambulance to go to the closest hospital
Correct.
to deliver the patient to adequate medical care and to get that ambulance back in service as quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
And having served on an ambulance myself, there was that time when people would call and say, I want to go to X hospital, and you had the feeling you were being more of a taxi than you were an ambulance. So the purpose of the ambulance is for emergent medical care. And if the patient has a physician that's overseeing that care at another hospital, you communicate that to medical control. Medical control evaluates and say, okay, you're under the care of a cardiologist at Mercy or at Cooley Dick, and that's your, okay, and releases the care. That can happen, can it not?
Yes, it can.
Yes.
But from a town perspective, again, I go to the point that we just heard about the staffing challenges. If the patient gets to the right level of care at the closest facility, that allows our crew to get back in service to protect the town. So it's definitely a balancing act.
But you never.
Yeah, my line of questioning is more or less to educate myself on this because I am a caregiver to a 95-year-old Ware resident, and we have used the Ware ambulance call in the past year for her. And I want to make sure I understand, not only for her, but God forbid myself or my husband is in a position that we need an ambulance. If I have the ability to express any sort of preference, I'm going to prefer to go elsewhere than Bay State. But it sounds to me like I will not have that right for the most part. And it's probably in my best interest that I just go wherever they might take me. So my hope is that I just won't need to check this out.
There you go.
No,
That's our hope too.
I do want to point out to the chief, the one time in the past year that we had the ambulance come for my family member, the EMTs were fabulous. They went above and beyond the call of duty in handling her that day. I know Mr. Edgar was one of them. I don't know the woman who was with him, but those two did
That would have been
a phenomenal
Lieutenant Fandry.
job.
That would have been Lieutenant Fandry. Yeah,
Thank you,
and
Lynn.
absolutely, you do have the right to make the inquiry, but please don't be disappointed if our
Fair
hands are
enough.
kind of tied.
Fair enough, thank
Okay.
you.
So, Amy?
Madam Chair, can I ask a question?
Yep.
Just out of curiosity. I understand because my father's had this position to go to a smaller hospital and then need the bigger. And I also thank you all when I was hit by a car at Country Bank and you guys came for my dad. So does that mean now Palmer becomes responsible for transporting out of Wing?
Yes, once a patient has arrived at their facility and on their grounds, it is actually their patient.
So
And they would,
we're Palmer's really absorbing a lot.
and it would be on them to make arrangements with another receiving facility and transfer the patient out with another service.
Okay, yeah, so we've owed a little bit of gratitude to Palmer. They're really absorbing a lot of what we're going through in our medical stuff.
I
so.
think we need to
Thank you,
give
Chief.
direction to the chief.
You're welcome.
I don't think we need to take a vote, but I think he needs to get clear direction to exercise due diligence and as quickly to get some information, whatever. I don't know whether or not you have money in your budget right now to go out and hire a firm. Stuart's shaking no. However.
Sure, he's shaking no harder.
Huh? Well, he was rolling his eyes.
No,
But
it's
I
very
think we have to get some basic information that
Right.
will not have a
Right,
cost.
right, and currently we have 2 vacant positions from 2 individuals who recently left our employ to seek employment in Auburn.
And are we currently seeking to hire to fill those
I currently
vacancies?
have 19 applications, completed civil service applications with resumes and credentials, sitting on my desk. It closed at 4:30 this afternoon. So the plan is to actually begin the interview process in the first and second week of March. Once we go
Which
through
should
them,
be some-
based on the rankings and go through the initial interview process, and if necessary, conduct a second level interview based on the number of candidates that we have.
So that turnaround time will be up to a month, correct?
It will be at least a month. So we're talking, those positions couldn't possibly be filled before the beginning of April if we can fill them. I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
No,
I
it's a
truly do.
situation that has
Yeah.
escalated over the last few years. The other thing I want to see us do though is I really want to see us, have you come back with data as to when our last increase for rates or what other communities are charging so that we don't price ourselves out. But I think for us to be able to sit here and not do our due diligence without having the appropriate information is a shame on us.
And that's a very fair ask.
Anything else for the chief?
So I will be driving you crazy later this week.
No problem.
Okay.
What did you say?
I will be driving Mr. Beckley crazy later this week.
So, but while we're talking on a study, Stuart, is that something Jay could look at for a non-traditional grant application, either through a better government, a funding agency that supports either, you know, efficiencies in government, medical services or something, not the traditional federal and state ones that we might have applied for before?
Are there, before you even answer, are there still those Comcast grants or whatever they were called?
Community compact,
Thank
but
you.
they weren't funded by the state last year, and the governor doesn't include it in her budget this year. So if they make it back through the legislature, absolutely, but there may be similar things.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Anything
Thank-
else?
No.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Always informative.
You have a wonderful night.
You as well.
We have nothing under old business, although I see your spreadsheet there.
That was, yeah, Stuart submitted the update to his performance objectives.
Oh, okay, I thought that was the other thing. All right, so under new business, we have a request to consider calling for a vote rescinding the underride vote in 2023. You have information, however, Stuart, I did some reading, because sometimes I read. Did I read this correctly on page, oh yeah, there is a page, on page 7, where it says revocation of questions, Prop 2.5 does not provide for the revocation or rescission of an approved question.
Correct.
So literally, we have to go through an override question only.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to be sure. Okay. So, go ahead,
Okay. So,
please.
everyone else hadn't seen the email I sent this afternoon.
Which
The
was-
original, I'll get there.
Oh, okay, good.
The request on the agenda, based on the tightness of the budget, was for the board to consider putting forward an override question on the April local election ballot that would effectively undo the $400,000 underride, which has been in place for 3 years. The email I sent this afternoon indicates to the board that the budget gap as presented, and we're at the beginning stages, but the budget gap as presented between what the departments have requested for increases and the known increases of insurance and retirement went up significantly. That gap is approaching $2 million.
How much?
$2 million.
Okay.
So, as you consider whether you, and this is totally the board's authority and power to place this question on the ballot, is whether, if the board wants to put on an override question, is to consider whether it would be, could be in a larger amount. If you look at other communities, they are all, not all, Belchertown and Amherst seem to be in good shape, but they're considering this as a method because they all have this gap. The high is South Hadley's looking at $11 to $12 million for an override based on what they need for their schools and insurance. They're in the Hampshire County Trust, so they're getting triple whacked at 20% for 2 to 3 years. But other towns looking at a couple million in order to fund their schools.
So in the past, if I can, Were you done? Because I didn't want to interrupt you.
I think that was a summary, yeah.
Okay, so in the past, I know that only one override was successful years ago, it was for the library. Would you be thinking of doing what they call a tiered, or would you just do one question so that it would allow you the flexibility?
Great question, because this is gonna come up, I believe, over the next few years as the town looks at other specific projects or equipment. So this, I would propose that this is override for operating funds, which
Okay, for
I
general.
understand is harder to pass than an exclusion for a specific capital item. But the tier or the
I'm worried
menu
about
type
the
ballot,
tiers, yeah.
I think works best, not pitting departments against each other, but for capital projects.
Right. Does anyone, are you familiar with them? Has
Yeah,
anyone had a
just a
chance?
comment on this, and again, anyone has seen that financially we are in real trouble here. But what we have here, something that goes back to, 2023, we've all known about this for a long, long time. And to ask people for additional money is always a tough sell. And what we're doing in this case, we're giving them really no time at all to review this. We're talking here a month and a half for the election. Mind you, this should have happened at least 6 months ago, where we could have an education process as to what we're doing, why it's important, and getting the support of the people. This puts us on a very, very short leash to convince the people of this override. So again, I'm sympathetic to it, but I'm saddened that this didn't come up at least 6 months ago.
So, if I might, having done this and helped other clerks with this, if you think that it's too soon, and you jump in because you're the one that is proposing this, there is the ability to put it on the state election ballot, but the deadline for that is like the first week in August.
Yes, the challenge there is
I know.
you have to cut $1 to $2 million out of this budget, which I completely agree with Mr. Desmond. It will be very challenging to pass an override. The data that would have to be presented is, this is what you lose if the override's not passed. And it would, at that level, and again, I don't want to say this, because you can read it in every other town. Hadley's talking about cutting its fire department in half and losing teachers, and that's consistent. So,
But you're right.
but we don't know those answers yet. But we would have to in the next 2 to 3 weeks when we're presenting the budget to the finance committee.
Right.
Stuart, your $2 million gap, does that include anything from the schools?
It includes an estimate for what I think they will. I don't know their requested number.
But general government would be at least half of the projected 2 million.
Generally, yes.
So can we talk?
And the 2 million, so say, there's always just regular cutting in the budget process that will get us down. We
Right.
manage to do that every single year. It's this extra piece. So I don't think the board or the town needs to consider a $2 million, but we may be at like $1 million, so.
But just to even keep things at status quo, that's the request would be for about $1 billion. Otherwise,
Oh, yes.
that is projected
Oh, yes.
service cuts.
Yeah, because the cost of the insurance isn't changing.
Right.
What's the timeline if we want to put this on the April ballot?
35 days prior.
So when the ballot is April,
The election is the 13th. I have to have everything, and I have to have the question as it will be proposed I have to receive it 35 days prior. I didn't look at, that's the only thing I didn't do is look at the calendar. So we're literally talking
3 weeks,
Yeah.
right after town meeting.
weeks.
You're talking about your March 3rd meeting,
Yeah.
latest.
Right.
Okay. Well, we should have by then the budget will be submitted to the finance committee. So should have an idea of what the cost would be.
It's too rushed.
And Stuart, can you just, if we don't go to ballot at the April ballot and we hold it to August, what's the impact?
Well, you can't put it on state primary ballot. It would have to be on November.
The November,
It has to be
on the November
general
ballot,
election,
okay, it would be on the November ballot.
August is when we submit the question.
So what's the impact, that would give us till August for the education piece. What's the impact in the FY '27 budget process? You have to work with the funds that you have available.
Yes. You can't contract or pay for things that you're not funded. So
So
either you're,
wouldn't the cuts be immediate then with the start of the current fiscal, of the new fiscal year?
mostly yes. Because if you hedge for the first year until you get to November, and then the override doesn't
Yes.
pass, and then you go to town meeting, then you have to effectively double the cut to make it through the fiscal year. So,
Not a good situation, but it's not there. Not good anywhere across the Commonwealth right now.
Nope. And how are we on closing out the FY '26 budget?
25.
Or '25 yet to the state?
We were down to one number this morning. I don't know if it got submitted. So it may be late tomorrow or Thursday that it gets submitted. So, I do have to talk to the board about that too. Coming up next.
We might have to have a couple special meetings just for us to be able to decide this. Unless-
On the underwrite, the override?
On the override.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I would want to see us put together accurate data. If the question's going to be on the ballot, I want to make sure that
Okay, I'm happy to do that, but
you shouldn't have to do it alone. We should be able to work
no,
collaboratively with you.
that's my job, and mostly
know.
it's gonna be split between me and Superintendent Wood. Okay, but I wouldn't, before investing in that, I guess I would like to know that the board is willing to wait for the data or not. Because I see,
You mean, we're willing to wait for the data and then make a decision?
yeah,
Or we don't care about the data and we don't care about the decision? I mean,
well, I
He's
see
saying, do
two
we need the
people, I see
data to
two
make
that
a
say
decision?
it's going too fast. So I don't. so
I'd like to see the
there's a-
data before I vote in support of it, yes.
So that's why I said,
Yeah.
I think it would be prudent on our part to think about scheduling a couple extra meetings so that we have that data and we don't dedicate one meeting or two entirely so that we can have a total discussion.
Yeah, because all I could say now is that I support it, but I would only be estimating the reason why
Correct.
and not knowing the numbers that speak to it and paint the picture.
Josh?
I don't think it's gonna matter how we paint the picture. If we don't put out enough education for people, they're not gonna vote for it. I understand what you're saying. I'd love to see the data. If we try to force this down everybody's throats, this ain't gonna happen regardless. I think this is something that we need to stop and take this a little bit slower. I think by trying to rush this in and hope for the best.
Not forcing it down anyone's throat. I understand what you're saying, that it's too fast, but.
It's way too fast.
Okay. Now, Madam Chair, are you saying there cannot be a special election?
You can hold a special election anytime the board wants to.
Okay. Because the other way
We
is
don't
to
have to
adopt
put it.
two budgets at town meeting.
We've done
then
that in
have
the
the
past.
election.
We've done that in the past
It's
too.
just
We've done that in the past too.
harder.
So that's why I say I think we need to have a meeting where we have solely dedicated to having these kinds of discussions,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, Works great.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I understand, but I mean, the thing is, we can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, but we were in a very difficult position, and I'm really concerned, that if this gets turned down, then it becomes even much more difficult. I think the key is to get people educated in the importance of doing it. I mean, you ask about this 200 or 400,000, how much of that, what is the override? How much of it is, what impact do we, I mean, there's a lot to this, and you can't solve it, in 6 weeks. This is a long-term situation, it's been on the books for a long time, and to say that we're doing this at the 11th hour, 59th minute is not a
Might
good
be
idea.
better off to just plan on a special election, but let's have
Okay,
time
I mean-
to decipher
we
that.
will get the data. Okay. That's much easier, just more challenging at town meeting.
All right, so we're not gonna take a vote, we're gonna wait till hear
Okay.
you, okay?
That works great.
Yeah.
All right, the next item would be select board roundtable. I don't know if anybody's got anything, because we've talked about everything. Ken?
So, given that we have a special town meeting scheduled March 2nd, and we as a board are not meeting till March 3rd, after the town meeting, and we're waiting to get certification of our FY
25.
25 closeout, so we can have free cash for appropriation. Do we need to set a meeting before the special town meeting if we don't get that free cash certification? There are at least 3 articles on the warrant I see that really need to be funded, because the wastewater pumps, the school chiller, and the fire hydrants. And we have I think there's other funding sources that could be used.
Right, so I would like to talk about that, so I'm really glad you brought it up. So in order to get free cash, I think we would have to be submitting the paperwork by Thursday latest, which would get approval next Thursday.
Right.
I am not highly hopeful.
You're not highly hopeful?
I'm not.
So you
So,
think the moderator and I are gonna be meeting again to postpone again?
no.
Okay, good,
So,
'cause I don't
I'm
know.
sorry, that's one of 2 choices.
I'm-
Either yes,
you know,
or, as Mr. Willett just brought up, we do what we did last November, last November, and use the stabilization fund on those items that have to be done.
And then we can always replace the monies back
Which is what we
into-
did last year.
Which I think is the most practical thing. But we should-
So, but I did want the board's opinion about postponing again, or, so,
I'm not sure legally, can we? Because I didn't read further into as to how many times you can postpone.
Yeah, I
I don't
think
know
that's-
if you can.
I think, yeah, but it would be better, we didn't do this in November, spending stabilization, because it just goes back and forth, but I think it would be better to fund the things that we have to
I
fund.
do too.
on March
I
2nd.
totally agree, Stuart.
Yeah, because they've got to restore the budget. Those expenses were covered
Yeah,
through
so it's
departmental.
residential budget, yes, absolutely,
I-
because otherwise
I
we're
think
digging a
that's
deeper
fine.
hole.
So we would know better by, if we have to meet next week in the middle of the week? Because if it gets submitted, we won't even
Well,
have a general idea, and next week is already the end of February.
Well, actually, if the concept is to fund what you need to fund, you can wait, and then it's just a matter of the motions are either gonna say free cash or they're gonna say capital
So
stabilization.
then why don't we take an action and vote to do that tonight? That way it saves a meeting and it gives you direction as to what we're
Yeah.
gonna do.
I could-
I'll entertain a motion.
So,
I don't have the articles in front of me, do
Yeah,
you?
I do.
Otherwise I gotta go out and read them. Oh, you do?
yeah, I would move that we, for the warrant for the special town meeting of March 2nd, for Articles 8, 12, and 13, that the funding source be the stabilization account and not free cash.
Can I just tell me what, one was the chiller,
One's the chiller,
Yeah.
one is the pumps at the wastewater plant,
Yeah.
and the third is the fire hydrant replacement cost.
okay,
And
so
there's
there's a motion and a second.
Wait, there's a fourth. We need to do the parks grant.
Oh, yeah, we have
The
to match
Parks
some
Road.
money, that was about 85.
Oh, okay, yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah,
What article is that? We can just state it,
It is Article,
is that like 10?
seven,
Article?
$82,500.
So we have a motion to fund Articles 8, 12, 13,
And seven.
and 7 from the stabilization fund, rather than free cash. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Before so all the other articles will be tabled? Or just
Yes,
this?
they're all fiscal, yes.
Okay, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 5 in favor. All right, that makes it a lot easier after
It
that.
does.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Anything else from anyone?
Well, I have just a couple, and again, it's going to be like a broken record. I'm not opposing any of this thing, but I keep on bringing this project up on East Main Street. You know, and what is it going to be? I still don't know. Is it going to be the roads? Is it going to be the water lines? Is it going to be the sewer lines? Is it going to be strain drains? What is it? And
It's
the
all
people
of
that are
those.
potentially affected by it don't know. And when are we going to have some informational meetings, something on these projects? The same thing happens on Church Street, and then here again, we're putting in sidewalks from Church and Pleasant all the way to Church and Walnut. So, I mean, there are a lot of homes on that area. Have heard nothing how that's going to take place. Again, I'm not opposing it, but we should have some thought that goes behind it. I've also asked for information on, we have solar farms that are potentially going to be on a landfill. If you can research what
Yes.
the track record has been in Massachusetts, how well it's worked, it's a good idea, but that cap will cost the town $2 million for that landfill, so we want to be sure if there is something on that landfill, that it's going to protect that. We also talked about it at Wendell Park. Some work was going on there as to whether or not you could talk to the vocational school, as to whether or not the students could be assisting in some of that work. I'm still waiting on the pavement management plan, which is an extremely important document because that's going to outline what we'll be doing this year on our secondary roads, anyway. Also, how that would potentially impact our water lines. So we want to make sure these two things fit together. And again, I haven't seen that management plan, and that document was submitted for approval almost a year ago. And finally, I think it would be important that we contact some other health agencies for review of what they're doing. We did have our health agent here a few weeks ago, which was good, but I think we should look at other things like that are out there right now in GIC, whatever facilities are there, to see what type of plans are out there, so that once we start negotiating, we'll have something to work from. So that would be important to get those documents.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Other than that,
Okay. Jeff, do you have anything?
No, that's it.
Ken?
Stuart, Dennis, we met, had brought up the cleanup at one of the parcels that we had a grant on.
Monroe Street.
Yes, and how's that going?
Fair. We're in the process of having the RFP, which Dennis has been waiting for an engineer to complete the testing, and then it would go up for cleanup. I think there's 2.5 years left on that grant, so.
Okay. And are we still on target for April 1st to send out the tax bills?
We have to. We are, very important meeting tomorrow between, no, that's not true.
It's not tomorrow.
We've hired a third-party reviewer to verify the data between 24 and 25. He's coming in tomorrow, and then is meeting with the State Bureau of Assessment later this week. And if that all goes well, they'll be able to proceed to letting you have the tax classification hearing on March 3rd or before. And that's what's needed in order to get April 1st
The
out.
classification hearing?
Yeah.
And the data's got to be approved by the state?
Yes.
Okay. And the last question, we talked about, the chief mentioned the 2 firefighters who went to Auburn, and I can't remember if it was Jack or John raised the question, do we do exit interviews? And yes, we do. And I think the question was, could the board see the exit interview with the names redacted?
That was me, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you didn't get that in your boxes? Oh, they're
No.
available, sorry. All right.
Okay. And you mentioned an email went out this afternoon with the update on the needs for the budget?
I didn't
Just
see
a
it. I was
gap.
just doing-
Yeah,
I didn't get it.
okay.
I didn't either, that's why I was
There
like-
is, I may not have pressed send, it's
Okay,
entirely
because it's
possible.
like I was just.
Okay,
doing
just,
my
yeah, we
thing.
just didn't get it, so if you want to send it later tonight.
Yeah, okay.
Perfect. Josh, do you have anything?
No.
Okay. All right, then your town manager report.
I missed what you covered with Mrs. Borsier, is that, did,
Miss Lady, what?
I missed what you covered with Ms. Borsier, the
I
first
just told her
paragraph.
that I would try to get, she's saying
Okay.
that Bay State makes promises, but really doesn't put anything in black and white.
Okay.
And I just said I would try to get something.
So the first part of my report is just a summary of the meetings that I listed 2 weeks ago that have gone forward. The meeting that was hosted by the by the Mary Lane Health was very successful and should lead to a process of understanding how the federal funds coming through the state can be used here locally to increase healthcare. Is well attended by other communities, so I think it's very successful. Huge thanks for our DPW Director, Ken Calder, who gave a great presentation on the water system at the Senior Center 2 weeks ago. We're going to try to have him recreate it for Ware TV and post the PowerPoint on the town website. Let's see, you may recall that the region's finance directors, town administrators, mayors were gathered a week and a half ago on virtually through the South Hadley. The recording of that meeting is available at the South Hadley Town website, southhadley.org. Western Mass Roundtable is very helpful in understanding some of the concerns of the school superintendents and town managers and finance directors as we go into the budget season. We did have the Mill and Health District planning session. About a dozen people showed up, first community forum on what uses, what vision people have for that session. That is being compiled. People used maps to describe what they'd like to see. And so that'll be compiled, be further discussed, and have a second community forum with recommendations from the planning consultant on how to move that forward, whether it's with zoning or working with property owners or other things. We talked about Bay State.
Just doing,
Yes, sir.
did they commit any, how much money did they commit on this project? Did they, has there been a commitment? We talked about things, but have they made a commitment with so much money? I understand it was like $750,000.
Which project?
The convenient camp.
Oh, I have not heard that number.
No?
No, we haven't heard any number.
Oh, I did.
Did?
I think the $750,000 was the deficit they were talking about.
I'm the unofficial rumor control officer. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I'm not
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Gotta go through the official.
Definitely, I can tell you, definitely the use of the trust funds, but they have not committed any other funds towards the convenient care.
I don't know.
No.
They haven't presented
They
that.
haven't said anything in any of their funds.
Time Bond and the Water Department conducted a successful water system pump test this last week. It was reviewed and approved by DEP, so it was very
good.
successful. And that's
That's what
part of
we're
the
looking for.
asset management plan that'll be coming out later this year. It's not on the report. I think it was on earlier reports that we applied. The town did receive a Safe Streets for All grant, which will include pedestrian and traffic improvements, particularly at the intersections of Pleasant and Church and Pleasant and North, as well as, there is another project. We didn't get the full amount, the full project was and then Anderson Road intersection improvements because of the accidents there. We did not get, the other thing we had put in was for a Gould Road sidewalk, and that did not get funded. It was a larger amount of money. And then just some personnel updates. Chris Mulligan began as an operator at the wastewater treatment plant, which brings the number of operators to 4, which we anticipate that by the end of this year, the state will actually require. He does walk into the job with fully licensed, which is extremely helpful. Dale Walker has started work here as the town hall custodian. Donna Jerome, who has worked here for years, we greatly appreciate it, is partially retired, but still holding her job at the police department. And because of retirements and people moving on, we do have openings for truck drivers, for the firefighters that the chief mentioned, an operator, as well as we have been using a consultant in the assessor's office for several years now. The person who's filled that position is moving on to another position, so we will fill it internally, an assistant in the assessor's office with still some support by the consultant.
Anything else?
I
No?
Nope.
Then I think I
I'll make-
will entertain a motion at 8:12.
I'll make a motion for 8:12 for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.